Hello everyone, this is the Mind That Writes, and welcome to Poet Does Philosophy. Because it's been a while since I uploaded anything, figured it would be interesting to do something else. And that something else being philosophy. I've been watching some of this gentleman's content here, and in one of his videos, I saw him talking about some interesting moral dilemmas, I think. And it's on this website called philosophyexperiments.com, morality play. And he did the part of the quiz, like 4 questions or something like that. I only half watched it, half listened to it. Anyhow, that's the that's the idea. There, I should give some disclaimers too. I am not a university educated person, nor am I particularly well spoken in certain subjects. So I'm not really a philosopher in the academical sense, I suppose. I'm just a guy who likes to think a lot, and sometimes I write what I think, so I guess that's where the poet part comes in. But as I said, I thought it would be an interesting thing to do this and explain my choices, maybe. Okay. Let's get our cancer sticks. I'm not that hungry, so I think my reasoning won't be too affected. I was thinking of doing this while drinking, but I think my thinking would be negatively impacted by that. Or maybe not. Who knows? So right, in this activity you will be presented with 19 different moral scenarios. In each case, you will be asked to make a judgment about what is the morally right thing to do. When you have answered all the questions, you will be presented with an analysis of your responses. That should reveal some interesting things about your moral framework and how it compares to others who have completed the activity. Before starting morality play, it is important to bear the following in mind. Let's note, the activity, will your responses to the moral dilemmas be judged to be correct or incorrect? You should respond with what you think is the morally right thing to do, which may not be the same as what you would actually do. Okay. So it's not about what I would do, but what I think would be the morally right thing to do. Okay. Several questions talk about moral obligation. In this activity, to say you are morally obliged to do something means you must do that thing in order to behave morally. Okay. When the moral obligation is strong, this means not doing what is obligated of you is a serious wrongdoing. When the obligation is weak, failing to do what is obligated of you is still a wrongdoing, but not a serious one. Finally, remember to read each moral dilemma of etiquette, you will find there are similarities between some of the scenarios. Damn, I haven't read in a while, Jesus Christ. However, don't let this lure you into responding without thinking. Each scenario needs at least some thought. Okay, let's begin. You pass someone in the street who is in severe need, and you are able to help them at a little cost to yourself. Are you morally obliged to do so? You pass someone in the street who is in severe need, and you are able to help them at a little cost to yourself. Are you morally obliged to do so? So, I'm gonna go with my initial reaction, which is not obliged. I don't like the implication of obligation there. So yeah, not obliged. Because if you are strongly obliged or weakly, that means everyone who you pass in the street and are in severe need, you should help them. So no, you're not obligated to do anything you don't want to do. Yeah. You have a brother. You know that someone has been seriously injured as a result of criminal activity undertaken by him. You live in a country where the police and legal systems are generally trustworthy. Are you morally obliged to inform them about your brother's crime? Oh my god. I do have a brother, so. You know that someone has been seriously injured as a result of criminal activity undertaken by him. You live in a country where the police and legal systems are generally trustworthy. Are you morally obliged to inform them about your brother's crime? Ooh. What is the morally right thing to do? But judging by how it's presented, would be strongly obliged to report, right? But only with the assumption that the country you live in has a police and legal system that are generally trustworthy. Doesn't mean that they are trustworthy. So, are you morally obliged? Well, you are. But if it's asking, oh my god, bro. How do you go about this? Should be simple, right? It should be just report. Then there's so many things that can come into play. I don't trust that statement there. We live in a country where the police and legal systems are generally trustworthy. Because I haven't lived in a country yet where those systems are. trustworthy. So I'm gonna go with not obliged again, partly because I probably wouldn't do it. I would expect him to turn himself in. Yeah, so no, not obliged. Oh my god, alright. Do you think that assisting the suicide of someone who wants to die and has requested help is morally equivalent to allowing them to die by withholding medical assistance, assuming that the level of suffering turns out to be identical in both cases? Well. Okay. Do you think that assisting the suicide of someone who wants to die and has requested help is the same as allowing them to die by withholding medical assistance, assuming that the level of suffering turns out to be identical in both cases? To allowing them to die by withholding medical assistance. I'm not sure I understand that. Could it be something like withholding medical assistance based on what? Religious reasons? Or why? Why are you withholding it? But even then, oh my god. Assuming that the level of suffering turns out to be identical. Oh yeah, another disclaimer, I'm quite a slow thinker. Do you think morally equivalent to allowing them to die by withholding? I don't get this question, man. Morally equivalent to allowing them to die by withholding medical assistance. What do you mean allowing them to die? So it's just asking you, is it morally the same thing by assisting someone in suicide? To allowing them to die, assuming that the level of suffering turns out to be identical. It's morally equivalent. Well, no, right? It's not the same thing. Because in one case, they don't want to live anymore. So it's a choice. But in the second one, there is no choice. The choice is removed because you refuse medical assistance. You withhold it for whatever reason. So no, it's not the same. Alright. You are able to help some people, but unfortunately, you can only do so by harming other people. The number of people harmed will always be 10% of those helped. When considering whether it is morally justified to help, does the actual number of people involved make any difference? For example, does it make a difference if you're helping 10 people by harming one person rather than helping 100,000 people by harming 10,000? You're able to help some people, but unfortunately, you can only do so by harming others. The number of people harmed will always be 10% of those helped. When considering whether it is morally justified to help, does the actual number of people involved make a difference? For example, does it make a difference if you're helping 10 by harming 1? I reject this. I don't know. Well, yes, and oh my god, bro. This. So you can help someone, but you have to hurt 10%, but only by harming someone else. When considering whether it is morally justified to help, does the actual number of people involved make a difference? Well, I don't think it's morally justified in any situation to harm people, no matter what. I don't like this phrasing, but just going by what we have. I don't think in any situation it's morally justified to harm someone, even if it involves helping someone else. Right? But then it's just a numbers game, isn't it? Would you rather hurt one guy to save 10? Oh my god, bro. It's 10%. Okay. I mean, if you accept the premise that someone needs to get hurt, and they do get hurt one way or the other, then it is morally justified. Does the actual number of people make any difference? Oh my god, this feels like it. No, it doesn't. It doesn't matter how many people. Because if you can save 10 by harming one, then you can save, I don't know, 100,000 by harming a million, right? So no, there is no difference if we go by this. But in an ideal thing, this wouldn't happen. I just don't think this premise is good. But going just by this, no, it doesn't make a difference. No, it doesn't make a difference. You own an unoccupied property. You are contacted by a refugee group which desperately needs somewhere to house a person seeking asylum who is being unjustly persecuted in a foreign country. You're an Anonymity is assured. You have every reason to believe that no harm will come to your property. Are you morally obliged to allow them to use your property? Unoccupied. Refugee group needs somewhere to house a person seeking asylum who is being unjustly persecuted. Okay, anonymity is assured. No harm will come. You're morally obliged to allow them to use your property. No, you're not. Again, this obliged thing. I don't like it. Morally obligated. That implies if you have, it implies obligation. I don't like that. I don't like the idea of being obligated to anything. So no, you're not morally obliged to allow them to use your property. Charity collection takes place in your office. For every £10 given, a blind person's sight is restored. Instead of donating £10, you use the money to treat yourself to a cocktail after work. Are you morally responsible for the continued blindness of the person who would have been treated had you made the donation? Oh my God, what the fuck? Instead of donating £10, you use the money to treat yourself to a cocktail. Morally responsible. Oh my God, what are these questions, man? No, you're not, man. No, you're not responsible at all. Why would you be? It makes no sense to be, right? Because it sets up like, do you value someone getting sight more than having a cocktail after work, right? It's the trickiness to it. But it's not your moral responsibility to donate, just to donate based on the assumption that the £10 will restore sight. Are you morally responsible for the continuing blindness that you treated had you made the donation? No, because then again, you're just gonna give everything away. Do you have nothing left to restore as many people's sight? As many people's sight. Vision. Are you morally responsible? No, you're not. Instead of donating 10, you use the money to treat yourself. No, I'm just gonna go with not responsible. Not even partly responsible. But then again, if you give the £10, someone will not go blind. So in a way, you are responsible. But that implies, what does that imply? It implies that actually donating £10 will restore the blind person's sight, which in reality it wouldn't, but in this case, no man, not even, no, you're not responsible. Someone you have never met needs a kidney transplant. You are one of the few people who can provide the kidney. Would any moral obligation to provide the kidney be greater if this person were a cousin rather than a non-relative? No, it wouldn't be great there. I would happily donate a kidney. Oh my god. If I was in a situation where I knew that my kidney would save someone's life in those rare situations, I would donate it. And it wouldn't matter if it was a blood relative or not. I guess that's still not the question. The question is the moral obligation providing it wouldn't be greater if this person were cousins. No, it wouldn't be great. It would be the same. You can save the lives of 1,000 patients by canceling 100 operations that would have saved the lives of 100 different patients. Are you morally obliged to do so? It's goes same thing with the numbers, man. Same question, isn't it? No, you're not. No. Again, this morally obliged. I hate this. I hate this framing. But it's contradictory the first time I answered this, isn't it? No, it's not. This is not the same question. The first case it was, no matter what you do, 10% of the total would still be harmed. In this case, so in that case, the number of people harmed is irrelevant. I think that's what I answered, Jesus Christ. But here, it's asking if the number is relevant. Are you morally obliged to do so? No, you're not. No. Are your moral obligations to people in your own country or community stronger than those to people in other countries and communities? Assuming no unusual circumstances, for example, suffering because of famine in either your own country, community, or other countries, communities. No, they're the same. They're not. You either help everyone the same way or you don't. Does this make me moral? Absolutist. I'm not familiar with the terminology. The moral obligation is stronger. No, it's not. You deliberately sabotage a piece of machinery in your workplace so that when someone next uses it there will be an accident, Jesus, which will result in that person losing the use of their legs. Are you morally responsible for their injury? What the fuck? Yes, of course you are. What the fuck? 100% responsible. What kind of question is this? Deliberately sabotage a piece of machinery. Obviously, you're the one who's responsible for it. You know the identity of someone who has committed a serious crime is the same. I'm gonna go with no because it's the same question. So they are dealt with justly. No, not obliged. Again, I'm just gonna go with I don't like this obligation play. Obligation, morally obligated. No one is morally obligated to do anything when it comes when other people are involved except themselves. Is that how I wanted to say it? Are you morally obliged? No, you're not. I would hope that the person who did the crime would turn themselves in. And also, I wouldn't withhold their identity. Would I be questioned about it? But I don't think I'm morally obliged in this situation. But when it comes down to it, I probably would, yeah, maybe in both situations. But we're not talking about what would you actually do. So yeah, for the sake of this one, I'm just gonna go with not obliged. You can save the lives of 10 innocent people by killing one other innocent person. Are you morally obliged to do so? Nope. Again with the numbers, man. I'm not. No one is. No one should be obligated to do anything. Whether it's morality or ethics or anything else. Yeah, I'm gonna stick with that. Even though 10 innocent people would die. 10 versus 1. And the 10 can go, man. I'm not. Yeah, no, I wouldn't. You see a charity advertisement in a newspaper about a person in severe need in India. There is no state welfare available to this person, but you can help them at a little cost to yourself. You have good reason to believe that any help you offer will make a difference. Are you morally obliged to help the person? Nope. This is the So it's the same in the beginning. No, you're not. The same with little cost to yourself. It's such a tricky thing. Because if you were morally obliged to help them, then you would have to be morally obliged to help everyone else. Then what? You just become broke, poor, homeless, and you can't help anyone. So no. Uh-oh, my hair is going out. You are required to send a person a gift and you have bought a bottle of drink to send to them. However, you discover it is poison and if consumed will cause blindness in the drinker. To replace it with a non-contaminated bottle will cost you 10 pounds. You give the poisoned drink as a gift anyway. Are you morally responsible for the blindness of the drinker? Yes, you are in this case. Because you know that it is poisoned. It comes from you and you have knowledge, so yes, you are responsible in this case. A situation arises where you can either save your own child from death or contact the emergency services in order to save the lives of 10 other children. You cannot do both, and there is no way to save everybody. Which course of action are you morally obliged to follow? Oh my fucking. Yep, I'm not, don't even have to bother explaining that. There is no choice, but yeah, I would rather have someone save their own. Oh my god, the implications of this. Oh my god. Ooh. interesting, but just save your own child. Yeah. You can save the lives of 10 patients by canceling one operation which would have saved the life of a different patient. Are you morally obliged? No, you're not. Okay, it's the same thing. You own an unoccupied property. You are contacted by welfare. It's the same thing, right? Yeah. Who's being? Your anonymity is... No, you're not. It's the same. You become aware that a piece of machinery in your workplace is faulty, and that if it is not repaired, then there soon will be an accident which will result in someone losing the use of their legs. Despite knowing that nobody else is aware of the fault, you take no action. Yes, of course you are. Personal responsibility always. You can save the lives of 1 million innocent people by killing 100,000 others. Are you morally obliged? Oh my god, bro. No, you're not. No. Let's see. Male. I'm just gonna go with Greece because I live here now. Oh my god, where is it? Uh, okay, I'll get back. Oh, okay, we're back. Country, it's not Guam, bro, it's Greece. Where is it? Is it Alada? El Salvador, España. Ah, it's here. Lana, there you go. I am between this, education, high school, religion. Not really religious, but debatable. I'm just gonna go with Christian then, because I was baptized. So let's see. Your moral parsimony score is 75%. Okay. Let's see. Moral frameworks can be more or less parsimonious. That is to say, they can employ a wide range of principles which vary in their application according to circumstances. Less parsimonious, or they can employ a small range of principles which apply across a wide range of circumstances without modification. Okay, example might make this clear. Let's assume that you are committed to the principle that it is good to reduce suffering. The test of moral parsimony is to see whether this principle is applied simply and without modification or qualification in a number of different circumstances. Supposing, for example, we find that in otherwise identical circumstances, the principle is applied differently if the suffering person is from a different country to our own. This suggests a lack of moral parsimony because a factor which could be taken to be morally relevant is an alternative moral framework. Alternative moral framework is here taken to be morally relevant. How to interpret your score? The higher your percentage score, the more parsimonious your moral framework is. In other words, a high score is suggestive of a moral framework that comprises a minimal number of moral principles that apply across a range of circumstances and acts. What is a high score? As a rule of thumb, any score above 75 should be considered indicative of a parsimonious moral framework. That's how you read it. Jesus. However, perhaps a better way to think about this is to see how your score compares to other people's scores. In this respect, your score of 75 is slightly higher than the average score of 62. This suggests that you have utilized a somewhat smaller range of moral principles than average in order to make judgments about the scenarios presented in this test, and that you have, at least on occasion, judged aspects of the acts and circumstances depicted here to be morally irrelevant, that other people consider to be morally relevant. Okay. Okay. We make no judgment about whether moral parsimony is a good or bad thing. Some people think that on balance it is a good thing, and that we should strive to minimize the number of moral principles that form our moral frameworks. Others will suspect that moral parsimony is likely to render moral frameworks simplistic, and that an overly parsimonious moral framework will leave us unable to deal with the complexity of real circumstances and acts. We'll leave it up to you to decide what's right. So yeah, morality play analysis 1, score is 75. I have no idea how it compares to other people. Okay. Is there anything else? More? Okay. Oh, I see. There we go. So 75% is calculated by combining and averaging your scores in the 4 categories. This category has to do with the impact of geographical distance on the application of moral principles. The idea here is to determine whether moral principles are applied equally when dealing with sets of circumstances and acts that differ only in their geographical location, the person making the judgment. So, I thought I was pretty consistent with that. Guess not. 67, average of 68. Okay. It is still low enough to suggest that geographical distance is a relevant factor in your moral thinking. It seems that you tend to feel a somewhat greater moral obligation towards people who are located nearby than towards those who are far away. Maybe it's because of the India, the blindness things. To the extent that this is so, it decreases the parsimoniousness of your family relatedness. In this category, we look at the impact of family loyalty and ties on the way in which moral principles are applied. The idea here is to determine whether moral principles are applied without modification or qualification when you're dealing with sets of circumstances and acts that differ only in whether the participants are related through family ties to the person making the judgment. Your score of 67 is a lot higher. Again, I'm not surprised there. And I think at a certain point, anyone who has kids or is in a functionally healthy family should prioritize their families first. Yeah, that's it. However, despite the fact that the issues of familiar relatedness are less significant to you as a moral factor than to most other people who have taken this test, your score is low enough so that it might be supposed that they will play some role in your moral thinking. To the extent that they do, the parsimoniousness of your moral framework is reduced. Okay. This category has to do with whether there is a difference between the moral status of acting and omitting to act, where the consequences are the same in both instances. Consider the following example. Let's assume that on the whole it is a bad thing if a person is poisoned while drinking a cola drink. One might then ask whether there is a moral difference between poisoning the Coke on the one hand, an act, and failing to prevent the person from drinking a Coke someone else has poisoned when in a position to do so, on the other, an omission. In this category, then, the idea is to determine if moral principles are applied equally when you're dealing with sets of circumstances that differ only in whether the participants have acted or omitted to act. Your score of 67 is a little higher. However, it is not high enough to rule out the possibility that the distinction between acting and omitting to act is a relevant factor in moral. More than likely, you tend to believe that those who act have a slightly greater moral culpability than those who simply omit to act. If this is what you do believe, it decreases the parsimoniousness of your moral framework. They're still pretty high, right? 75. Okay. This category has to do with whether scale is a factor in making moral judgments. Oh my god, okay, I can see it now. Is there a moral difference between this choice and the one where the numbers of lives involved are different but proportional? For example, saving 100 lives by sacrificing. In this category, then, the idea is to determine whether moral principles are applied without modification or qualification. When you're dealing with sets of circumstances that differ only in their scale, as in the sense described above. Yeah, well, I think this is pretty self-explanatory. I explain it again. It seems that scale, as it is described above, is not an important consideration in your moral worldview. But if contrary to our findings, it is important, then it decreases the parsimoniousness. Oh, it's not. Okay. India and Australia. All the people undertaking this activity are told that the person lives in India, the other half that the person lives in Australia. The idea is to determine what kind of impact culture or distance has on the moral judgments that people make. The important point here is that the vast majority of people who visit this website are from the United States, Canada, and the United Kingdom. Consequently, in comparison of the lives and lifestyle of visitors to this website, there will be a cultural difference between visitors. Yeah. I'm neither. Respondents. Okay. As belonging to none. Let's see this one. I don't really care about this thing. No, so let's see here. This is interesting. Ooh, nice. Okay. Final analysis. To date, 6,281 people have undertaken this activity. Question 1. You answered not obliged. 9% of people of your religion or lack thereof agree with you. 9% of women agree with you. 15% of men agree with you. Overall, 12% of the respondents gave the same answers. You have a brother. And this is where the bias goes. But yeah. You answered not obliged. 17 people of your religion agree. 14% of women agree. 23% of men agree. Overall, 19% of respondents gave the same answer. Interesting. Question 3. This is assisting suicide. 60% of your religion agree. 57 of women, 54 of men, 56. So yeah, it's pretty average. You are able. Is it morally justified? Doesn't think so, yeah. That's average too. 51, 51, 59. You own an unoccupied property, not obliged. 30, that's pretty low. 31, 27, 33, 30%. Okay. I'm not gonna read everything out. I don't think it makes a difference. Whether I do or don't. Charity collection, blah blah. So you're not responsible. It looks like I'm in 42%. Someone kidney transplant, no. 6 to 46. Can saved, no. So 60%. Okay. No. I guess everyone is in agreement here. So yeah. About personal responsibility. Oh my, okay. Yeah, no you're not. 8, that's low. And it's average. 26, it's low. Responsible. Personal responsibility again. Yes, I get a child, obviously. Oops. Excuse me. Not obliged. This is pretty low too. Yeah. Wow. This is interesting. Yeah, okay, cool. There you go. That's my attempt at doing philosophy. Philosophy as a uneducated poet, I suppose. See you next time, or not.